Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's show, we're going to depart from our regular format to bring you a very special interview with Carolina Hurricanes commentator Tripp Tracy and WRAL sports anchor and reporter Casey Hintz. It's a very personal, candid, and powerful conversation about Tracy's battle with alcoholism and his journey to sobriety and how it's changed his life and how he now hopes to inspire others to do the same.
Week we saw you post the video of 1 year sobriety. I just want to take me through that moment. Could you imagine where you are now? Could you have ever imagined that a year ago that you'd be in this moment?
No. You know, where I go being an alcoholic for the 12-step program, that I'll protect the anonymity because that's the centerpiece to the countless lives that it has saved for nearly 90 years. There's a reading at the end of every meeting about the promises, and they've come true for me in an absolutely extraordinary way in just over a year, Casey. But the fact of the matter, the crux of accepting you're an alcoholic is you don't drink no matter what. If things go well, I mean, your gratitude is through the roof. But if things happen, as things happen in life, you don't ever use it as a reason to drink. My experience in just over a year is the promises have come true. So to answer your question, no, I never could have imagined it.
When I say April 26, 2022, 3 words that come to mind when you think of that date.
Gift, acceptance. Oof, man, I was going to go with 4. Between surrender and willingness. I was given a gift. I needed to be beaten down. Whether I had the immense privilege of coming back and continuing to be a part of the Hurricanes or not, when I did walk out of that New York hotel the day after the game, I had a feeling of peace and calm because I knew no matter what, at 48 years old at the time, that I was done drinking. And that was a gift. I believe that was it was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I needed an incident. I needed, whether I kept my job or not, to be beaten down. That's the gift. And I was given flat out, bulletproof acceptance that I have a disease. And I tried to compete against that disease. In my DNA, I'm a competitive person. I've been successful at things that I challenged myself to do, and I tried to compete this and compete it and beat it, so I was given acceptance that I can't beat it. And this is surrendering to win, and then willingness that countless others, men and women, have paved the road for me in really the simple program, a day at a time, that is required to be sober. So those words.
What do you remember about that 24 hours, maybe the hours leading up to it, and then those hours, as you mentioned to me personally off camera, just about being in the hotel room, dark, and kind of realizing what was going on? Like, kind of what was the mindset there in those 24 hours?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I think about is that I can still see myself in that bar. Late Sunday afternoon, Casey, that 1 was too many and 1,000 would never be enough. Fast forward, a lot of times I would have licked my wounds on Monday, Uber Eated it up, and I didn't. I had a commitment, and so I got back on the horse. And then Tuesday I went to the morning skate. Yeah, I was hungover, but there's Advil on every street corner. I came back to the hotel, and I was sharing with you. I mean, I'm looking at the minibar. For an alcoholic, you always, do you identify or do you compare? Comparing how I'm not an alcoholic because this hasn't happened to me, as opposed to identifying with each and every person that through strength and hope shares, their tough moments and then building sobriety. And I'm sitting in the hotel room after the morning skate. It's 12:53 right now, right about this time. and the insanity of my disease. I was reading my game notes, and I said, well, I have this massive headache, I'm going to have a drink. And obviously that's insane thinking, something that I never would have fathomed doing. I shared with you there was vodka there was tequila there, and I certainly spent plenty on lunches and dinners on Monday, but all of a sudden I got cheap, and I said, well, this gin is the cheapest. I'm just going to have a couple of sips. And my dad, God rest his soul, I never drank gin. And I said, but it's the cheapest. And it was a gift, because my dad always said, never drink it. And he said, gin's like climbing a cliff. It builds a false sense of confidence, and then without warning, you're in the deep abyss. And is that ever true? Because my head calms, I didn't drink a great deal, and all of a sudden, I fall asleep without warning, and I wake up at 6:59. I've missed my interview with Rod. I'm missing the game, I can tell. I figured 23 years at the time with the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm thrown away my job, and so then I kept drinking during the game. And the tweets that I put out that night came from a good place in my heart, but they were under the influence driven. I'm grateful they happen now because of hopefully the opportunity with the fact that alcoholism and addiction touches everybody in some form or fashion, that it ended up being public. That was an under the influence decision, and then when I came to the next morning after a wonderful call from Don Waddell, that's when I said, okay, wow, what a massive mistake. You've got to own it and put your phone away.
We'll be back after the break with more from WRAL's Casey Hintz and Tripp Tracy about what happened next in his journey. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. Here's more with WRAL's Casey Hintz and Tripp Tracy.
I believe that this is God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I looked at that whole presentation, that dark room with the room service trays and the bad back, and I said, not only is this not working, this stopped working a long time ago. I had a brutal night of detox, but I haven't, I go to my meetings every day in my 12-step program. It's not like when you have that moment of clarity that all of a sudden Aladdin comes into the room with this magic carpet and says, hey, jump on for the ride. I'm going to take you on this happy, joyous, and free ride for the rest of your life. You got to do the work. And but that was the moment right there that that the thought to drink was removed. Was prepared for and would have accepted any outcome. And I went up to the office, and Don and I in the conference room, he put his arm around me, and he said, we're going to support you. And I was prepared, and I would have accepted whatever Don was going to say. And it's just an unbelievable feeling, over a year later to have had some opportunities, because recovery is about given the right positive situation and opportunity to make amends, to be able to do so. And I was able to give Don my 9-month chip. Don my 6-month chip, because it was the same color as Northern Michigan, where he played college hockey. It just so happened that Governor Cooper came on with us the night of the morning that I got my 9-month chip. I mean, that's you know what, Casey? That's God. These aren't coincidences. So the ability to make these amends, and then Rod, who dug in for me like nobody's ever dug in for me, he came to my morning meeting, and that I was able to give him my 1-year chip. These are amazing opportunities. But one other thing I'd like to mention with Don is I did put my phone away, and I went back to Michigan. I can remember in the first round, Wayne Gretzky, who was very, very supportive, sent me a message. I was watching the Bruins Hurricane series with my mom, and he said, how you doing? And I said, it's tough to watch, not being there. And he's the great one for a reason. He said, Tripp, the game's not going anywhere. Worry about yourself and your health and your family. That's the biggest thing I've learned about myself, is to truly trust God. Trusting Tripp, I see where that got me, to trust God.
What is that lesson maybe you hope people could take away from your story, your journey?
That's the most important question, Casey. And that's why I never would have done it with a clear head. But the fact that my alcoholism is public, I don't mind that at all because I don't feel pressure. I knew I was done drinking. Time will tell, one day at a time. That I'll be true to my word on that, to take advantage of this gift. But the reason I don't mind that it is public is because with the Hurricanes and Valley Sports allowing me to come back and do my job and focus on the job and the game that I love. Not my sobriety, focus on the game and what my job is. That I have a platform. And in particular, young people. Alcoholism and addiction, it touches everybody at every age. If you would have said life would have been this good, I never would have believed it. I would have accepted and been thrilled with far less. And so what I hope is that for young people in particular, I'm 49 years old. I have countless data to know that alcohol doesn't work for me. Specifically people college. Drinking and addiction, it's still a big part of that experience and into your 20s. If you think you might have the disease, starting to think about, oh my gosh, how am I going to go, even if I'm successful being sober, how am I going to go the rest of my life without the ability to drink? What am I going to do at my wedding? What am I going to do at family get-togethers? What am I going to do in the holidays? Life can be, and it will be, more happy, more joyous, and more free than you ever could have imagined without any drug in your system, including, for me, alcohol. That's such a tough sell, especially for young people. That would be the biggest thing, and the other thing is, and I'll say it again, it's easy to pick up the phone when things are going well. When that phone really gets heavy, when you isolate yourself, when you're in a dark spot, pick up the phone. You will get the extraordinary, never be able to pay it back support from people who love you that I got. Pick up that phone. Then finally, Rod talks about it all the time. It's all about today. Both feet. The old line, if you have a foot into yesterday and you have a foot into tomorrow, you have no chance at today. Just today. Just today. Don't project into the future. Just worry about today. And please, as much of a struggle as it is, pick up that heavy phone.
Wow, that's incredibly powerful, Tripp. I know I speak for all Caniacs that we are so happy that you are back here today, up in that booth where you belong.
Thank you for listening to this special edition of the WRAL Daily Download and making us part of your morning routine. If you like what you're hearing, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or on whatever podcast app you use. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email waiting in your inbox every morning with Triangle news events and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.